Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first and last word poetry series. And Harris, my co-host, can't be here tonight, so he will be joining us next month. So let's get started. Our first reader is Mary Buchinger. She's the author of 7 collections of poetry. Her most recent books are The Book of Shores, Lily Poetry Review Books, 2024, Navigating the Reach, Salmon Poetry, 2023, longlisted for the Mass Book Award, and Virology, Lily Poetry Review Books, 2022. Her work has appeared in Agni, Main Review, Plume, Salamander, Salt Hill, Seneca Review, and many other places. She teaches at Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. And if you would like more information about her, check out her website at www.marybuchinger.com. And I give you Mary.
Thank you. Thank you, Glo. And thanks to you and Harris. I said it already tonight, but I'll say it again. Like you've just created and you sustained this thriving poetry community. I'm really grateful to you. So thank you for that. I'm just back today from Florida, and we had a couple of days by the ocean. So I thought I'd read some ocean poems tonight. To say, ever since I met the ocean when I was 21 and on my honeymoon, I loved it. So I'll read a little bit, just excerpts from a sequence from the Book of Shores. So this is the Book of Shores. This is the most recent book. Within me is a record, a memory of rising from the ocean of my mother. I clambered through a wooden chute and emerged on a cliff. To my right was a perilous drop. The rocks below splotched white, brown, red, amnium, meconium, a kind of trail. To my left, I saw a lighted cottage and heard laughter, singing, ashore. Even inland was once a sea, a shallow sea that turned the living to limestone, an ankle-deep sea of economy, a shiny, miry mirror of sun. And there was a self, known only to self, who carried the sea wherever she went. Skirt of water, piney shawl, she loved the creatures dead in their shells. She plucked and pickled them, broke and built with them, paneled her house with the dead white of the shells. How are your dead? I ask, when it's quiet and I've forgotten where I am. So then I'd like to read an excerpt from the title poem from Navigating the Reach, which is this book. So this is from 2023. Yeah, Navigating the Reach. And I do explain what a reach is, so I think you'll figure it out from the poem, but I can just say too, a reach is a narrow body of water between two larger bodies of water. It connects them. So it's something you have to navigate because it's narrow and it may have rocks. And since this is in Maine, it has rocks, which you'll hear about. And I wrote this about a month after my father died is when I was writing this. So this is called Navigating the Reach. And again, it's just an excerpt. Off the coast of Maine, on remote Norton Island, a month after my father died, the moon has yet to practice this particular loss. I've seen it quartered like this before, but this inexorable waning after blooming full summer solstice between city buildings. And I, now islanded, beneath the naked spurs of stars. The tide comes round, swollen, then tattered in retreat. In its wake, ropes, braided and frayed, knotted to a hollow jug, or snaking empty. Ropes useless, stranded on rocks. The rocks, immovable truths, complicate everything. I watch my step, having learned through slipping the slickness of the black algae on the steep, creviced granite. I'm told this is a reach, and the island is joined at low tide with another by a gut, mucky crossing for deer, sheep, mice. All day, thrushes here drop silver coins into silver cups. My father loved to whistle, ribboning the air, abide with me, bicycle built for two. You make me happy when skies are gray. My Michigan girl dream of a tide pool, I could not know. And now, face to face with the real thing, the startling ruddy and blue calico, the many, many mouths opening, pops of seaweed, sea lice, barnacles, Atlantic air, sun thick, salt damp. To sit like this and receive. Never would I have dreamed this light lending inflorescence. How much we can't foresee. Two translucent dime-sized crabs scuttle in a bottoming out rivulet. A shadow-filled shrimp pushes away with its army of legs. One lone detached lobster claw. At dinner, someone asks, was your father an extraordinary man? Extraordinary? I don't know. He was mine, and I loved him. In an open cove, an eagle swoops down like a broad-handed sorrow. I shield myself, heart pounding, surprised by its immensity. At my feet, I find a smooth, flat rock that fits exactly in my palm. It is the shape and heft of grief. I launch the rock out into the reach. It skips the surface 3 times before it drops below. Hours later, when I return to the flushed out cove, a rock, mine, sits shining, ringed in seaweed, wet, like something newly born. A rock on top of a rock, on top of a rock. this grief. The island is part of an archipelago, as everything is part of something. This island is one of 3,000 on the polka dot coast of jagged crags. How does one learn to navigate the reach, its treacherous rocks? Some here call them stones, these things that could kill you. Others make them known, naming each one. See that? Whale rock. This one, snakehead. To these I add Leviathan and thief. One giant rock, leavings of a wave or glacier, perches triangular on a shelf, looks seaward. Touchstone rock. It brings good luck. Just touch it. So massive, I could live inside. Gaze toward Portugal. It's made of mirrors, fractured quartz. My body draped against the sun-saddled rock absorbs its warm fortune. Dusk, high tide. We climb into the boat, circle the island, spy one stepped rock outcrop strung with white birds on stilts. Beside them, a larder of harbor seals shatters suddenly into frenzied water. They disappear like a probed emotion, then surface, curious, observe us with solemn, fatherly eyes. Every island must have its snake, its bit of trouble, even here in this experiment of beauty. And when you think there could be nothing wanting, someone tries to plant a garden. Bearded iris, chives, wild sweet pea twines beside imported cream roses. My father loved my mother's flowers, asked their names, forgetting each, even as she spoke them. Sweet William, Zinnia, Dusty Miller. I recite them to remember. The reach runs deep between two bays, cut by a glacier that scraped out inlets and peninsulas, necks, harbors, a twine of tributaries and falls that reverse, rills and runnels that fill, empty, and fill again. Such abundance of coast, pillowed in granite, all crumpled in against itself. If one could tug each end and straighten that snaking rope of intricate seaboard, where land rises and kneels like memory meeting its grave, and where sea finds meaning in its own absence, how very long that shore would be. A kind of truth one can only attempt to reconstruct, to dream somehow into being. And then I'll end with this poem that's new, very new poem. It's called On the South Shore in Spring. Horseshoe crabs scuttle across old dunes, kick up stones with claws of cuticle and horn, born of a winter mind. The many-eyed crabs glide, gathering braids of moss. Algae and limpets sprout from crust. And when their hinged domes mine the bay bottom, I enter the cold, and swim beside them, impatient to touch their veined ridges, vivid, alive, ancient, endangered. Linked waves strike a crooked shore and joust with the light, scattering sparks of galaxies, ashes of the dead, cells of the dying. The flower moon blooms poppy orange at the edge of the night bay. Seeds light across the restless water, swallows stars and sheds its color. Ebb tide, small figures rise with the sun to rake the flats and fill red buckets with clams, a plateful for supper and extra for neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That was really beautiful. And I thought we were going to see your cat. All we saw was the tail.
Almost. You saw her tail.
Almost. That was really
Fortunately, let
cute.
food up for her. Yeah.
Thank you. And so our next reader is C.D. Collins. She follows the storytelling traditions of the South, both as a solo artist and when accompanied by musicians. Her work is represented in 5 compact discs, one of which won Best Spoken Word Album at the Boston Poetry Awards. She is the author of 3 books, a short fiction collection, Blue Land, a poetry collection published by Ibbetson Street, and a novel, Afterheat, published by Empty City Press. And I give you CD.
Hi. Thank you for all that water. What a beautiful reading. Thank you, Mary. The Sahara Desert, the Kalahari once had a lake on it the size of South Carolina, and we did not keep water on the land. It's overgrazing, deforestation, climate change, industrialization. We need to keep water on the land. Plants keep water on the land. Light fades photographs. Beavers keep water on the land, despite the blurry envelope of drunkenness. Wildlife keeps water on the land. Their paw prints and hoof prints create divots in the soil, thousands of tiny rain gardens. He slept now all the long afternoon, not to cause suffering. We are all trying not to be alone. Bacteria and fungi keep water on the land. All tyrants fall. Water makes life possible, but they don't all fall fast enough. Variety keeps water on the land. Trees sleep at night, relaxing their limbs. The force of gravity is greater on Earth than on the moon. You are lighter on the moon. Light fades photographs. All tyrants fall, but they don't all fall fast enough. We are all trying not to be alone. There is no life without water on the land. So I'm just a Kentucky girl in a Massachusetts world. And I love New England. I love New England. I do. But one of the many culture shocks I get when I journey north is that the language changes. In New England, they might say, it's going to rain 4 inches. In Kentucky, we say, they're hollering flash floods out in Ticktown. If you're in Massachusetts, people might say, his father was stern to his son. And if you go to New Hampshire, you'll hear his father. In Kentucky, we have no privacy at all. I heard, my father beat me with the big Stanley broom from this back porch to that red barn door. There was a layer of ice and it was slicker than deer guts. So I kept falling. And when I got up, he'd knock me down again. Honey, I got the poop frailed out of me. So I can miss that old Kentucky talk. So anyway, up north, people are smarter. A lot of colleges, people say a lot of words, but sometimes, and this is everywhere, words and phrases that start out real clever, they can get overused. Some researchers used an MRI to see how vivid language lights up different areas of the brain. If you say he smelled of coffee and cinnamon, the language center and the olfactory center lights up. And this is what I've been saying. These little word packages meme across the country, and they infect our mother tongue like a virus without a vaccination. I'm not immune. I do it too. Totally. I mean, right? Hello? So I'd like to vaccinate a few phrases from the English language forever. Let's start with, it is what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? No, I don't know what you're saying. I have no idea what you mean. It is what it is. What is it? It's similar to, what are you going to do? What can I do? You can only do what you can do, and so that's what you do. And I'm retiring frankly, and to be honest. Why do we need to point out that you're about to tell the truth? What are you usually doing? Are you usually being tricky? Tricky is the worst. This word has completely saturated the language and shoved out so many worthy adjectives. The word tricky makes me feel like I got to figure out a puzzle with some of the pieces missing. It's like watching Tom Cruise act. I can say that. He's from Kentucky. I want to understand, but there's just not enough information. And creepy. That's just creepy. As though we're never creepy, only others are creepy, and we're all clean and shiny. And then now there's the one who's done. I'm done. You're done? What do we need to do? Do I call 911? You're done. It's new. But then there's the one who says, well, as it turns out, as if they have the final word on the subject, the final truth that supersedes all that was said before. Same thing with at the end of the day. Well, at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. The day is not over. But that being said, why do you need to tell me that you just said that? You said it, I heard it. So here's my retirement poem of lazy speech for a parallel universe where there appears to be a conversation going on. It is what it is. What are you going to do? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? Frankly, to be honest, it's tricky. It turns out that said at the end of the day, it's creepy. You think? I'm just saying. Okay. Let's talk about Pride. This is Pride Month. It seems like it's been going on a long time, but it's great. And I was in Paris, in France. There's a Paris, Kentucky, but I was in Paris, France. My first Pride, it was in 1990. And we walked the streets. We had signs and banners, but they didn't block off the streets for us. Cars were honking and pushing us around. And I asked a bartender, I went to a women's bar, why they hadn't made a place for us to march. And she did not even meet my eye. She just said, we don't talk about such things. My second Pride was in Boston. And as I walked down Boylston Street, our route blocked off and protected, bystanders clapped and cheered, and I understood the reason for this march. I realized that this parade, established to commemorate the Stonewall Uprising, it saves people's lives. And a lot's happened since then. A lot has changed. There's a lot of discussion, division, argument, and coming together. A whole new language is being coined. And there's so much to say and so much to learn from each other. And all our voices are important in this conversation. All our stories are important. So I want to share one of mine. I was in a rural university in Moorhead, Kentucky in 1969. And this was a very dangerous place to be if you were going to fall in love with your roommate. And this is the place that I don't know if you remember, in 2015, the county clerk, Kim Davis, of Rowan County, which is where that university is, refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples and said that the Pope was on her side, et cetera. And the very next year, Moorhead had its first Pride. So thank you, Kim. It stirred people on. So this is called emmetropia. And emmetropia means perfect vision or foresight. Evenings, we stole quietly to dinner in our camel coats. We avoided the student center, where it was rumored they put saltpeter in the mashed potatoes. We walked off campus instead, frequenting restaurants in town. Most of us could afford to eat out then. We didn't worry about the tab, $1.20, 11 cents tax. In one cafe, we ordered an orange drink so sweet we asked for 3 glasses of water to dilute it to drinkability. They spotted us. How could they miss us? Our long, unruly hair blowing upward in the wind, the tumbling umber and gold of the leaves that autumn. After I found out, I stopped eating. After 7 days, I agreed to go to Pasquale's. You'd get the stromboli steak and I'd get the thick hot pizza with the mushrooms and black olives. Somehow, my boyfriend Fury was there when I fell, collapsing on the sidewalk across from DeJarnett's Drugs. Fury drove us to the hospital, you in the front seat, me hovering and back. There was no diagnosis for what I had, for what I have, no diagnosis nor cure. Take her back to the dorm and let her rest. I slept on my top bunk, not waking until the next evening, the roommates miraculously gone. The effect of candlelight caused the room to float. The lit crane down the street dropped its blue industrial light. You lay on the bottom bunk in your butter yellow shirt, soft brown hair, cherry lips. Slowly, you held up a hand to me, and I reached with one hand for you. Our palms crossed, fingertips curled together. We stayed for 100 heartbeats. I'm sorry, you said, because I couldn't see beyond that quiet room etched in fire. I couldn't see, but you could. I want to commemorate my mother, may she rest in power, and my father also. She went back to work when I was like 2 weeks old, and she put me in school when I was 4 and told the teacher that I was 7. And, I was, not that mature anyway. So this woman said, sure, Miss Ludi said, come on into my school. She could see that I needed something. Miss Ludi, this woman with the mineral breath knows you still speak to forest animals, that you once tried to make fireworks with flowers and precious sand, thought you could walk off the chicken coop and fly. She will hold all of you tenderly in your little desks, will free you as often as she can because your body craves tearing through the playground, sliding onto third base, gathering as much dust as possible because you thrive in the dirt you are made of. She knows you need to stride to the pencil sharpener just to relieve that spring inside you. Her breath is silver with the frost of the mountain she has climbed down from to teach you letters and numbers. Which sacks have seeds you can plant? Which ones are too heavy a burden for your small bones to bear? She will teach you that it is not important to count the polished dimes in the storm you got caught in, but to watch them flashing from the sky under whatever shelter you can find. She will show you how to decipher letters and words so that you can learn the stories of other children, their small hands and the fur of the creatures that walk beside them. Once she dissolved a tiny square of paper in her mouth, ate breakfast at dawn in the diner, scented with the seductive oils of the friolator. Saw the towers spring up and down like accordions. The birds in the trees outside the library chattered excitedly, but she understood them and may divine you too if you allow her. Miss Ludy's eyes are the blue of the hyacinths she brought in one day. Gaze into her eyes, that unfathomable blue, the color of the sea under a shimmering dome of sky. You've never seen a blue like that before. So Kentucky's one of those flyover states, you know, when you're shuttling back and forth between the coasts. You look out the window and it's down there. You probably heard a lot of stereotypes about the Appalachian Mountains. Grandmothers peddling OxyContin out of their pocketbooks. That hillbilly on his porch sighting you down the barrel of his shotgun. Oh, honey, it's all true. But let's get down to the why. See, Granny has got the cancer. She gets by on Motrin and sells her OxyContin to buy groceries. And that hillbilly answers his door so rudely because the last stranger that came calling carried off his mountain. It's hard to see clearly when you're flying over, hard to get the details when you're just driving by. So I'll do one more. Do we want to be in France along the Champs-Elysees, or do we want to go to Kathy's Country Kitchen and have death by salad? Okay. Death by salad. At Kathy's Country Kitchen in Stanton, Kentucky, you start your meal with a salad. You can choose tossed, pear, macaroni salad, potato salad, cornbread salad, strawberry pretzel salad. Strawberry pretzel salad is a local favorite, and here's how you make it. You break up a large package of pretzels. You melt a stick of butter and you mix it in with your crushed pretzels. You add a cup of nuts and a few tablespoons of sugar. You punch that down in a Pyrex pan and you bake it for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. In the meantime, you make 2 packages of strawberry jello with as much sugar as you can possibly dissolve. Add it to your frozen strawberries and you refrigerate that. Then you mix a container of Cool Whip and an 8-ounce package of cream cheese and half a cup of confectioner's sugar. You spread that mixture evenly on top of your cool crushed pretzels. Then you pour your half gel jello over top of that, put it in the refrigerator to set till dinner time. Now, people, this is not a salad, but at Kathy's, it's on the salad list, so you might order it anyway. Then you have your catfish dinner with yeast rolls and Johnny cakes, mashed potatoes with brown or white gravy, corn pudding, and of course, fried green tomatoes. Now it's time for desserts. There's the usual list: butterscotch cream pie, chocolate cream pie, banana pudding, and at the bottom, the dessert you will actually choose: yellow cake with warm caramel sauce. The yellow cake of Kathy's Country Kitchen has the same density and longevity as the uranium yellow cake used to make fuel for nuclear reactors. It has a half-life of about 1,000 years, except that instead of being used to make a bomb or nuclear fuel, this yellow cake goes in your stomach. And once you eat it, your bliss is short-lived. On your way back down Levee Road, you want to die. You swear you will never eat again. But next time, when your waiter says, yellow cake with caramel sauce, it's like a cat charming a bird. You want it. And as soon as you get better, you're going to order it again. Thank you all for inviting me. It's such a pleasure. I'm so honored, Gloria and Harris, and the wonderful work that you do in our community and all of the beautiful writers and poets here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, CD. It's funny, the language. that you spoke about and read about, because in Illinois we have many expressions that they don't have out here. And I had to ask what some things meant when I moved out here, and I still do sometimes. So, but really wonderful work. Thank you so much. And our next reader is Hilary Sallick. She's the author of 3 poetry collections: Love is a Shore, Lily Poetry Review Books 2023, which is on the long list for the Mass Book Award in Poetry, Asking the Form, Polyho Press 2020, and Winter Roses, Finishing Line Press 2017. Her poems appeared or are forthcoming in Permafrost, Potomac Review, Jet Fuel Review, Notre Dame Review, Ibbetson, Small Orange, and many other journals. She served as vice president of the New England Poetry Club from 2015 to 2024, a teacher with a longtime focus on adult literacy. She lives and works in Somerville. And for more information, check out her website, which is www.hilarysallick.com. And I give you Hilary.
Thank you, Gloria. And thank you, CD and Mary, for those beautiful readings. And thanks everybody for being here. I'm excited to read tonight on this hot night. So I'm going to read you 3 poems from my book, Love is a Shore, which came out just a little less than a year ago. And then I'm going to read 3 new poems. Keep it simple. Our project. We're trying to do something very difficult. What is it we're trying to do? It's pleasant out here, so green, branches and leaves everywhere. A back door opens beyond the screen of spruce, always human activity. A cardinal zips across lots. These fences mean nothing to it. We are in our separate places, abiding within the rules. There's a squabble of birds now. How does a song sparrow sound when it squabbles? And a high call lilts. Bee, bee. Is that a chickadee? There are many birds here, and only one is visible. How do they do that? I found a feather floating in the bird bath and plucked it out before emptying the murky water, pouring in the fresh, clear water for the birds. I love to see them drinking and splashing there. The feather is from a jay with bands of black and blue and a pointed white tip. How do the threads of the feather know to make that pattern? And my own body is a mystery. Flesh and folds and keratin, cartilage and air, hunger, thirst, voice. It's night now. The moon has set. High up are bright stars. Even the street lights can't hide them. I see patches of sky, eons of time and space between buildings. Haven't I always been here doing this, trying to be something true? There's a sadness in your gaze. You don't speak of it. Why do so? Your gaze speaks it. How can I answer you? How can I make you smile? The brink. After the negotiations, the emails and phone calls, the effort to reassure or defy, after the rolled eyes, the lack of compassion, the fury and tantrum, after not letting them put one over on us, after shame at having thus exposed oneself, after storming off or brushing it aside, after all of this, there's the hollow, resonant with bird voices now. the whoosh of cars through humid air, where light is touching every iota, where robins dance over damp earth. Faint silver streak of rain against the far-off buildings, and two mockingbirds flying under and past one another, flashing their white barred wings, making their calls. Here is a place, a bench in a city, a perch on a branch, where one can be a bit of weightless gravity, a potential stirring. Extravagant late summer flowers, 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 ropes and vines and stems, petal burst pressing from the center knot where honeybees hover, a light creep. Where was I? What was I saying? It's almost dusk. I am on the brink. My eye swarms the flowers, and I watch people climbing into cloud, descending to garden. Where to from here, I wonder? Somewhere surely hidden. Vehicles in the distance, up close, the machinery of the pollinators. And one more short poem from this collection. Brief reunion in Kathy's yard. A warm November evening, we sat outside watching the children next door as they played with rake and leaf pile, our own children grown up, and considering the mind of Kathy's cat, roaming the enclosure of the yard, meowing loudly and expressively in our direction. And then the breezes sprang up stronger, not cold, but soft and warm, and the trees let go of those leaves that remained, the whole upper air enlivened as they came slowly twisting down to earth, where their faces shined, pressing against each other. And we leaned back in our chairs, looking up and laughing. So that's not seasonal, but I hadn't ever gotten to read that poem, and I decided I wanted to read that one tonight. So I'm gonna read you now three newer ones. This first is kind of on the long side, and it meanders a bit. We'll see. Whoops. The apartness. I'm made of spaces and interiors, and sometimes they blur, as if I'm living different lives at once as I sit here in this one room, imagining I can open a door, look out to a wide, unswept hall, the closed doors of other apartments, and to how up and down a stairway I walk, feeling air moving through windows in all seasons and weathers, how I'll leave open the door to let in the freshness. Because my daughter in her city far off calls to tell me a scent of mildew rises up from somewhere, and now insects have started a life in her space. She woke with 6 welts on her left hip, then found in the seams of the mattress bits of debris, maybe droppings or ova. So she begins the work of eradication. And I, at this distance, join her in mind, seeing with her as best I can. Why does the world have bed bugs, she wonders, why? And we can't think of any purpose for them in this ecosystem. But now I'm thinking, what about us? Why human beings? And begin to see how they and we are not so different, of the same matter, same striving. To do the laundry, she must go down in the ancient elevator, carrying her bags of clothes and sheets, step out to the basement's void, a chaos of forgotten things, broken furniture, baby strollers, soft old clothes, and strangely, pieces of art on the walls, portraits, landscapes, family photos. The washers and dryers loom in their area, never a soul doing laundry. But today she met two cats who seemed to have made the basement their home, and softly they stepped toward her, warm against her calves. And also there were two men hanging out. I think they belong there, she said. Maybe they work in the building, but she's never seen them before. Maybe I'll bring my mace when I go back down. No one would hear me down there. And I thought it was a good idea because she said it lightly, and I was laughing easily with her. There are ways we need to think, and I admire my daughter's thinking, how she deals with what she must, and my presence hovering over her is powerless like my ghost. I picture the men in the basement lounging at their ease on the old armchairs, leisurely in that space, how they nod a greeting as she appears, how she says, hey, in their direction, friendly and low-key the interaction. And earlier I spoke to her of childhood. Do you remember the lice, all those hours and days of going through your hair, strand by strand? Oh, the many, many red gold, long and waving strands. Bedbugs are nocturnal, as is my daughter. It's morning now. She must be sleeping, and they have gone back to their crevices. While I am here where I began, thinking of the many, the overlapping, the illusion of being with and in another's domain or mind, which is impossible, but I so often feel I am, and that I can do that, as if here is made of there, and I of you. And so I make mistakes. For example, as I was pouring my coffee, my husband reached for the light switch by the laundry, and I said, it's the middle switch, where there are 3 switches side by side, and I felt my own hand moving toward them. Do you think I'm helpless? He said. I've done this a million times. No, I told him. It's just my mind thinks it's made of your mind. There's a joy that dissolves to a sadness, and vice versa. By late yesterday, my daughter was tearful, having returned from a day of difficult circumstances to find the vacuum cleaner she needed no longer outside her apartment door, as in the delivery photo from Amazon. My fault, she told me. I wasn't home. And she said nothing else. Then I sank low in her silence. Such a bad feeling that someone in your building, a neighbor, took it, I said. People are having a hard time, she reminded me quietly. I saw myself outside her then, standing there with a bit of awe at her wisdom and also anxiety that things are hard even for her. And by now my poem has come apart, is expanding beyond its own edges. There's a sadness at the edges. I feel it multiplying, fraying, far off, dissolving, and too, it's of a single heart. Here's another new, more recent poem. Everything. This evening, I was eating pizza from the box, my mood an ache in everything. Then I saw through the window the evening sky, its tints and transparencies so astonishing, and the mulberry branches laden with beginning leaves were little bows tied neatly against the sky. Then I saw a raccoon with purposeful ease moving from fence to tree. She was finding something in the trunk, something on the trunk, and perched with her bottom on the fence while her hands worked and worked the bark. and she turned her triangle face right toward me, curious as I about her. Then such a small one appeared from nowhere, and then another. They followed her down the trunk, about the yard, in the dimming. I could hardly see them, but they could see everything. And I'll read one more that it's a little bit longer and maybe is still in process. This poem mentions Diane Seuss, and I'm thinking of this book, Modern Poetry, which I've been quite smitten with lately. Little figure within, stance within the circumstance, the rise and fall, the inner dance. For living alone is hard, and living with a person is hard. Following the funeral procession to the cemetery is hard, as is skipping it, leaving the thing unfinished. How amazing the light brightening suddenly the gloom, the new tips of spruce golden green, the splash of shine on the rose, the far off immense shimmering of oak, and close up the infant leaves of the mulberry trembling. And with the company of so many birds, over and over the trills, the high tunes, the wing dance, the float. The funeral was hours ago, and still I feel too tired to speak of it. Though all afternoon, what have I done but lie on the couch, not speaking, imagining the little figure within, loyal worker, heart polisher, who goes where touch is needed, goes to the ache, to pull and knead, soften and stretch. As when the poet Diane Seuss names herself at the end of a poem, and when I come to one of those moments, something twists in me, a turn of feeling, a start of recognition, like a sob or cry breaking out. And now I think also of my friend who was her mother's sixth baby, how she grew in utero for 10 months, as if her mother's body wanted to keep her, to keep on making her. The church was full of mourners lined up in pews in sober readiness, knowing what was. We joined the hush, immense vibration, musical feeling, unbearable power, like childbirth. Oh, stance, oh, little dance, to flow and bend is to know thyself. And what do you make of it, fledgling on the branch, very quiet now, after a time of preening your soft feathers so they're combed, arrayed about you? You turn your head this way and that, looking up into branches, sky, the huge surround out of which your parent source will come, bearing food for you. What a view you have. I feel it pouring into the bit of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. That was wonderful, really beautiful. And I would like to give a shout out to your mom. She does the most beautiful paintings on your covers. So if you could show that, it would be great. So it's gorgeous. Thank you so much. And I hope you will join us next month, and Harris will be back. And so really, thank you, everyone, and good night.